Hey.
Yes,
There
like
we
I
go.
say, I can't hear you.
I'd muted us. I was being unprofessional. I'd muted us while the thing played. I forgot to unmute us, which is a major drawback. Anyway, I was about to say, or I was saying, hello, late tea time podders around the world. A new slot for us, Thursday morning slot this week. DT's busy schedule stopped us from actually being on yesterday, but hello and welcome. We're looking at two tournaments this week, the Arnold Palmer and the Puerto Rico Open. DT, how are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Yeah, I was working late last night on the football, so we had to get it in this morning. But at least I've actually got a bit of extra news having waited, so sometimes it pays off, doesn't it?
Patience can be a virtue. I've been watching the Full Swing, the new Full Swing series on Netflix. Watched about 5 of them yesterday. It's actually better than the first season, I think. Yeah. They go back to a few of the people they went with in the first one. But yeah, there's a few. There's a really nice one where Matt Fitzpatrick is back, but he's back playing second fiddle to his brother, and they basically got an episode where it's all about Alex and his trying to kind of jump out the shadows of his older brother and all of the success he's had, and they chronicle him having a bit of a disastrous tournament and then qualifying for the Open and having a great Open week. So yeah, that's a really nice one. There's a really good part of it. He's walking in to a tournament and he's got his cap on and everything, and some kid shouts out, "Can I have your cap, Matt?" And he just like chunters under his breath. If he'd called me Alex, he probably could have had it. But yeah, it's worth a look, everybody. And there's I know you've got some tips this week, but I've got one as well. Because off the back of watching it yesterday, I've got a tip which I'll squeeze in at some stage. But we will have a look then at the Arnold Palmer and the prices going across the bottom of the screen there. Scotty Scheffler 13-2, Rory McIlroy is 9-1, Victor, my mate, 16-1s, and the Scheffler 18s. Patrick Cantlay the same. Ludwig Aberg is 20-1. Jordan Spieth 25s. Tommy Fleetwood 28, and Justin Thomas is 28 as well. Colin Morikawa, my mate, is 28 too. The rest are obviously bigger. DT, we always leave it as late as we can. You get your big gargantuan golfing brain around all of the news and rumours and press conferences. Where does that lead us this week with the Arnold Palmer?
Yeah, so on the outrights, there's plenty that appeal, I guess. I do like Sam Burns, I must admit. But the one that's sort of come to me later in the day is Kurt Kitayama, the defending champion.
Okay.
He won it last year with 9 under. It's a funny tournament, this one. If you look down the list of winners, Tiger won it 8 times, but then you've got these slightly curious back-to-back winners. You've got Lauren Roberts in, I think, 93, 94, 94, 95. And on the second one of those, I dreamt he was going to win it. Yeah, really? So desperately trying to have a dream last night to see who could win, but
we don't want to be delving into your sordid dreams.
Yeah, there was no golf involved, I have to say. So Lauren Roberts won it back to back. Then Matt Every won it back to back, and I was like, that's a bit odd, isn't it? So there's a nice little kind of history there that Kitayama could tap into, but more than that, he's been playing really well this year. They interviewed him earlier in the week, and he just said normally he starts the season slowly, but he's been quite impressed that he's come out fairly fast and consistent. He was 8th in Phoenix a couple of tournaments ago. I don't think he's finished worse than maybe 39th. And he puts that down to he started working with Chris Como, new coach, and said he's kind of eliminated the big miss. He's more consistent in his game. And he's got a good record in Florida as well. He was 3rd in the Honda Classic, the Cognizant, it's now called. So there's lots to like about him this week. So he's a big price. I think you can get about 70-1.
Yeah, 80-1 6 places, 70-1 if you want 7 plays, or 66-1 if you want 7 places.
Yeah, so he's the one. I just think that's a really big price. I know it's a great field and everything, but there's only 69 players in the field. I know it's quality, not quantity, but I just think in that price in this field is for that number of players is good. And I also like him for first round leader. So add that in as well, because when he did win here last year, he was 2nd after round 1. And then in the 2022 Honda Cognizant, he was the first round leader, so he's good at making quick starts in Florida. So again, he's worth looking at that market. I think a Unibet 66-1 might be the best place for that.
Yeah, he's 66-1 Unibet, and with a couple of others as well. But Unibet is the first on the list. Yeah, so 66-1 for him to be the first round leader as well. Can I throw in my bet?
Yeah, do. I'm intrigued.
This is off the Full Swing thing. We when we watched it last year, there were a few players who you kind of watched and you thought, yeah, kind of nothing new there, or he's a bit more boring than I thought, or whatever. But there was a few. Tony Finau was a standout, wasn't he? And we had a couple of others. Matey boy, I've forgotten his name, the one that plays in the sun hat.
Joel Damon.
Had a child, didn't he? He's really struggled since it, because he was saying that he got famous off the back of Full Swing, off the back of shooting 78 or something. And he would prefer to be famous for actually winning golf tournaments. And he's had 12 months of a real struggle, obviously a new family, which is taking his time. And there was a lot of chat in that episode of him speaking to a sports psychologist, and he was very reluctant to do it. And they kind of juxtaposed him alongside Wyndham Clark, who had spent about 12 months speaking to a sports psychologist and ended up winning a major. So he basically, at the end of it, he kind of says that he's going to speak to a sports psychologist and try and get himself on the right lines. But what my favorite episode was Tom Kim. Young lad, massive smile. They kind of chronicled him. You remember him limping through the Open, doing really well at the Open, but limping through it because he'd really hurt himself. He comes across as a really good bloke. And I think he's going to get some big raps and a big reception in the next few tournaments from the locals. And that might just give him a bit of a fillip.
Yeah, you've got to sort of weigh up the timing of the release of this program, and as you said, it's just come out, and he could feel a little bump from that. Yeah, he finished joint runner-up in that Open Championship, didn't he? So he's some player, isn't he? He's got all these wins. I think there's some stat, isn't there, where he's got only Tiger Woods was quicker to 3 wins or something like that. So he's some player. What odds is he in this week?
55-1.
Right. Yeah.
Which is
I know he's maybe not been in devastating form, but I don't think you would have expected to get over 50-1 on him like a few months ago, or back at the back end of last year.
It's quite interesting, actually. He's hanging around with the likes of Jordan Spieth and Justin Thomas and stuff, playing practice rounds with them. And they're kind of like treating him as the kind of like younger brother kind of thing, and making jokes about, he's 12, he can go in the creche or some stuff. And he's kind of laughing along, but he's actually getting frustrated by it because he wants to be treated seriously. And then he does really well in the Open, and obviously then people start to kind of, well, they're already treating him seriously. They're kind of only taking the mickey because they like him and they can see his potential. But he's he comes across really well on it. I liked him.
Anyway, that's you. You've sold me on that. I will watch it. I don't know. I watched the first one and thought, don't know.
Which one's the first? First one's very live heavy, isn't it?
No, the first series. Yeah.
Okay. The first episode of this one's very live heavy. It's got kind of the fallout of them. Well, it kind of picks up on the kind of separation, and then it picks up on them then trying to come back together, and the announcement, which kind of they're all going, excuse my French, everybody, what the fuck's going on, kind of thing at the start of it, looking at their phones and in the cars and everything. Right. And then the Rory's basically kind of he's very Rory, Dustin Johnson, and Brooks Koepka are very heavy in the early stages of this series, when they're kind of their reactions to what's going on. But I mean, there's no spoiler alerts in that, because you all know what's going on out there anyway. But it's still yet to be decided in many ways, though. And that's a story that remains to be unfolding.
Yeah, no, I'll give that a watch now. I think you've sort of given me the push I needed, I think.
Yeah. So anyway, back to you. You got some match bets, haven't you?
Yeah, quite exciting. So quite a lot of press conferences this week, so there's quite a lot to wade through, and just little bits jumped out, pros and cons for certain people. So I put together a match bet, 72-hole match bet treble.
Okay.
Of which I'll tell you about now. First one is, sorry, James, Patrick Cantlay to beat Colin Morikawa.
Well,
no, you don't like that.
The most boring man on the planet against my favourite.
Yeah, well, So I don't know if you remember, if you watched the Genesis where Cantlay had a kind of good lead, and then he just sort of dulled his way to the finish. And
can you remember I said ahead of that, why is Patrick Cantlay always at the top end of the prices? Because he's never won anything, and then he got off to a flyer, didn't he?
Yeah,
but it's like he watches the Late Tea Time podcast and use it as motivation.
But it emerged there. He was really sort of flat on the weekend. He thought, oh, well, I wonder why what's going on there. It emerged that he had flu at the Genesis, and he talked about that in his press conference this week. He says there was flu going around in LA, and I got sick on Friday night. I was just drained. I didn't have any energy. People will say it looks like that all the time, but there was certainly something looked a bit kind of, this is all a bit kind of flat and
putting even slower,
underwhelming and slow. But I think it was a valid excuse. He ran out of gas. But let's not forget, he still finished fourth there. Had a big week, and then that followed on from 11th at Pebble Beach. So he's in really good nick again. He played this event for the first time last year and was fourth. So he's got course form to go with that current form. And then he's up against Morikawa in a match bet. Morikawa's form here is a bit kind of patchy. He's got a 9th, but either side of that, his other two finishes were 64th and miscut. So I don't know, it's quite his best place. And then just kind of comparing their sort of head-to-head records, Cantlay's beat him in the last two at Riviera and Pebble. So I just think Cantlay's a solid bet, and just with that extra little bit of angle that he had flew last time, I think he's fit and healthy again this time.
So what price is Patrick?
I think he's 4 to 5.
Okay.
The second one, you're going to hate me even more. So it's Xander Schauffele to beat Victor Hovland.
Dave Tindall.
I know. I'm not doing this on purpose, but there seems to be valid reasons. Quite interesting.
If you're watching Colin and Victor, this has got nothing to do with me.
No. Victor was, well, he won't be watching because he's trying to work out his swing. So he was interviewed yesterday, Wednesday, and said it's been a bit frustrating so far this year. I feel like my swing hasn't been quite as good as it has been in previous years. So he's trying to work it out, and it sounds like he's still working it out. Yeah. He actually said, because people saying, I bet it was at its best last year when he was winning everything. And he said, no, I preferred my swing in 2021. He was looking at old videos. So he's kind of seems to be a bit searching. I know golfers always.
Do you know what? I see it in cricket a lot. I reckon people, when they start to maybe not quite get the success that they were getting, they start to look for the reasons, and some people are overthink it. Victor might be an overthinker, and he maybe is going into it too deep, because basically, ultimately, cricket, golf, and the other sports with sticks and balls are basically just hitting a ball, aren't they? Yeah. And I think keeping it simple is probably the best thing, rather than looking for too much at times, because there's so many moving parts of a golf swing that you can maybe get a little bit bogged down and let it consume you.
Well, and it sounds like it is consuming him, because I think he pulled out of a couple of events, and he was asked why, and he said, I don't really want to fight through something while playing. It's just not that fun. I don't see the point of it. So you could say that's smart, but on another level, it's maybe just, like you say, overthinking and just trying to find that perfection again. And it's never going to be, there's going to be highs and lows and swings. And I think he's, maybe should just let it happen a little bit rather than try and hammer it out and find the magic solution.
So he's up against, what price, Xander?
Yes, he's up against Xander Schauffele, who sounds very different in his kind of assessment. He said, just got to keep on keeping on is kind of what I'm doing right now. So he's just sort of gliding along. Look at his results, 4 top 10s in his 5 starts this season. So he's playing well everywhere. I know he's not got a great record at Bay Hill, where Hovland has got a good record recently. 24th and 39th for Schauffele. But he just seems more kind of at ease with his golf game at the minute.
That's one of the things that came out when they took him to Damon on the full swing thing. He's just not he wasn't enjoying his golf. his caddy, his ball caddy that's got famous through the full swing thing as well, getting so frustrated because they were just rocking up and just accepting missing cuts, and it was just becoming a real bind. Whereas kind of you're playing golf for a living, it should be fun, shouldn't it?
Yeah. And that quote, Scheffler, I mean, he's a laid-back character, Scheffler, but just keep on keeping on. It just sounds like, he's just going along nicely. So it just sounds like a more solid proposition. So I think he's about even money, but I'll give you this kind of treble price in a second.
Okay. Before you give me the third one, what we'll do is we'll play our sponsors advert.
Okay, tease it then. Yeah,
because we are always indebted to the guys at switchwatersupplier.com for their support of the podcast. Here is their advert, a little bit about what they do.
All golfers want to stay away from the water. That splash as your round sinks beneath the surface is never a good sound. But golf courses rely on water to keep those fairways and greens lush. For that post-round shower or the clean glass at the 19th hole. Golf courses, indeed most businesses, spend way too much money on their water bills. Switch Water Supplier can cut your water costs and help your business save money. Register now at switchwatersupplier.com. They will do all the hard work and get your business the very best price for your water supply and claim money back if you've been overcharged. Switchwatersupplier.com. Switching made simple.
So thank you very much to switchwatersupplier.com. Switching made simple. Pick number 3 then. We've got Patrick Cantlay and Xander Schauffele already on the treble. Who's the third choice?
Yeah, so this is the one where I'm kind of glad I waited to do this in the morning rather than last night. So it's Adam Scott to beat Hideki Matsuyama. So the last time we saw Matsuyama, he played that incredible final round at Riviera, shot 62, stormed through to win there. And you could look at that and think, wow, he's going to take everyone by storm again, and he's in incredible form. But I don't know. I think he'll do well to match that. And his record at Bay Hill is really odd. Looking at it, he's had no top 15s in his last 7 visits. And then he was interviewed yesterday, and he says, for whatever reason, this has been a place I've never really played well. So I'm figuring out how to overcome those issues. So it sounds like he knows, he's aware of this, a bit confused. Then the other thing he says, which is pretty relevant. He said, my back has been a bit sore the past 4 or 5 days. So that's been a bit tough. Now, we've seen him struggle with his neck before. He does get a lot of niggles, and he's not averse to kind of 18 holes and then see you later and withdraw. So there are a couple of doubts over him. And if you're playing a match bet, you want to take him on with someone who's really consistent. Adam Scott is absolutely that this year, or the last few months. He's had 7 straight top 20s. 5 of those have been top 10s. He's twice finished 3rd at Bay Hill. So Scott does look a really kind of solid, reliable customer this week, where Matsuyama does seem, I know he's got that win at Riviera, but perhaps unlikely that he can continue that with his poor course form and that kind of back issue that seems to be just concerning him. And he'll have the Masters in mind. I mean, the Masters is next month. It's hard to believe how quick that's come round. So I think if there's any doubts about things, he wants to play in that tournament again because he won it in 2021. So it's just it's a word of warning as well. I mean, if you're backing Hideki in the outrights, it's just kind of a word of warning that there are some negatives on him this week.
So Adam Scott goes in. What price is Adam to beat Hideki?
I think about evens, but that treble is 6.2 to 1 with Bet365.
Okay, so that's Patrick Cantlay, Xander Schauffele, Adam Scott to beat Colin Morikawa, Victor Hovland, and Hideki Matsuyama, respectively. Is that everything for Arnold Palmer? You got anything else up your sleeve?
No, that's all for Arnold Palmer.
So shall we switch across then? The Puerto Rico Open is the other tournament that we're looking forward to. Rasmus Højgaard is the favourite for that one, 16 to 1. Daniel Berger's 20s. Christopher Gotterup is 22s, and Aaron Rai is 28, DT.
Yeah, just a really quick spin through this. I must admit, I haven't gone into great depth, but keeping it simple, the highest ranked player in the field this week on the world rankings is Robert McIntyre.
Okay.
Who's just been on Europe's winning Ryder Cup team. Now he's 35-1. So he's the highest ranked player in the field. You could argue on that, if you're basing it on world rankings, he should be 14-1 favourite or something like that. So you think, well, what's going wrong? Why is he not shorter in the betting? And his form has been a bit in and out, but just 2 starts ago, he was 6th in the Mexico Open. And there are some similarities between these two. I guess they're both outside of the US, obviously. They're near kind of the coast, and they both use Paspalum green. So given the fact that he's played well in Mexico, and it does correlate well with this event in Puerto Rico, I think he's overpriced, well overpriced, McIntyre. I think he's, at his best, if he can get that putter going a little bit better, he could easily win this. So I definitely like him. And then the other one that I like this week for the outrights is Ben Silverman. He's been popped up on a few leaderboards in the last couple of weeks. 13th in Mexico again. That bodes well for the Paspalum grass. And actually, he was first in putting in Mexico. So he did put those Paspalum greens there really, really well. And then maybe just as impressive, he was 16th at the Cognizant Classic last week in Florida in a much tougher kind of assignment. So 13th and 16th in 2 different tests. I think he's playing really well. So again, I think I'm slightly leaning more on current form at the minute because of the strange amount of winners we've had. I've had some really strange winners on the PGA Tour this season, and a lot of them have been in sort of good form, and they're kind of ripping up the kind of established elite of what they're doing. So anyone who's in good form, I think people do use that as the first kind of criteria anyway, but anyone in good form, like Silverman, 13th and 16th, I'm sort of raising him a notch, and some of that form does correlate well. So what have we got for him?
Well, playing well is usually quite handy, isn't it?
It is. But but sometimes people look for all the other factors and think, well, maybe his stats weren't so good, or he's not played his course well before. But so Ben Silverman, what odds?
40-1 DT.
Yeah, so that's fine. Again, I say it is like an opposite event. It's all the big guns are playing in Bay Hill. So it's a good chance for the likes of maybe McIntyre or Silverman to get a first win.
Yeah, you can eke out. I mean, obviously, you all know betting out there. It's like, for example, Robert McIntyre. DT mentioned 35-1. That's 5 places with Bet365. You can get 6 places if you drop to 33-1. So you basically, it's up to you. It's however you fancy it out there. But Robert McIntyre, Ben Silverman, go on to our betting slips for Puerto Rico. DT, thank you very much as always. Is that everything from you? Have you got everything off your chest?
That's all I have. Yes.
So thank you very much to DT as always. Thank you out there, everybody, for watching as well. I'll just run through. I'll do a summary of what we've tipped up this week. I've gone Tom Kim. You can take that with a pinch of salt, but I've watched Full Swing and he's very nice. 55-1. I'm sure he'll get some love as he goes into that tournament. But Kurt Katayama for DT. 80-1 at 6 places, 66-1 7 places. First round leader 66-1 for him, and then the match treble: Cantlay to beat Morikawa, Schauffele to beat Hovland, and Scott to beat Matsuyama is around about 6.2-1 with Bet365. And then across to Puerto Rico: Robert McIntyre 35-1 and Ben Silverman 40-1. Those two are carrying our cash there. DT
Beautifully summed up, James. Well done.
Thank you very much. If you want to follow us on Twitter at Late Tea Time Pod, this has been a Sports Broadcast Media production. And as always, please always gamble responsibly out there, Late Tea Time Podders. We will see you again next week. Good luck with all of your bets and take care of yourselves. Cheers all.
Always gamble responsibly. Visit BeGambleAware.org for more information.